What is up, everybody? It is Grand Prix GP02 here, coming to you once again from the north end of Houston, Texas. And this week I've been zooming around all over the place because I've been behind the wheel of the 2018 Mazda 3. Alright everyone, so let's get to it. And first off, I feel like I've been suffering a little bit of deja vu over this past week, or maybe something of that like, because as some of you guys may know, I used to own one of these third generation Mazda 3s. However, mine was a 2014 compared to this updated 2018 model here. But enough of a trip down memory lane, let's talk about what makes the Mazda 3 still a hit with compact buyers today. Now, compared to when this third generation Mazda 3 first landed here in the United States back in 2014, not much has actually changed here for this 2018 model year. You can still take your pick between 3 different trim levels covering 2 different body styles. You could choose between either the 4-door sedan like my tester here or the 5-door hatchback. Trim levels are still the same as before, covering Sport, then Touring, or again like my test vehicle here, the upper end Grand Touring. Now, being that the example I have here today is the top of the line Grand Touring trim, and as you can probably guess, it does have a few extra options thrown in as well, this particular version is not going to be the cheapest Mazda 3 that you will ever see. The price tag as shown here on my Snowflake White Pearl Mica tester, $28,370. Now, at nearly $30,000, my Mazda 3 here does have one thing up its sleeve to help justify such a number. The Grand Touring basically carries over everything that was standard and optional on both the Sport and Touring trim levels, plus a few little extra niceties to go along with it. Now, before we get into the features, one thing that has always struck me about this third generation Mazda 3, even with the minor refresh in 2017, is the Kodo design language. I love what Mazda did to change this thing from the clowny, big, smiley-faced Mazda 3 from the past early decade or so and turned it into a rather handsome-looking compact. Now, starting here at the front, my Grand Touring trim level does have quite a lot to show, including these automatic full LED headlights here in the front. These include the LED accents that sort of look like eyes when you turn them on at night. They are automatic adjusting as well, so that is nice, and they also do have the automatic high beam assist to go along with it. I believe that's part of Mazda's premium package, which my car has. That's an extra $1,600. Moving down, you do have the halogen turn signals, no surprise there, and these full LED fog lights down here in the lower part of the front fascia. Now, my tester also does have the available $1,300 Mazda 3 appearance package, which adds these metallic black painted pieces around the lower parts of the front, side, and rear fascias. And finishing it all off, you do have Mazda's 5-sided grille up here in the front. The update actually came in the form of the chrome trim piece actually moving into the inner workings of the headlight. Before, it actually kind of slimmed off the headlight and went up towards the top. But overall, still a very handsome styling here to the front of the Mazda 3. Now, just like any other compact in the Mazda 3 segment, what you're rolling on still does actually matter. Now, my particular tester is rolling on perhaps my favorite set of wheels on any of the Mazda 3s. These are the dark gray finished 18-inch aluminum alloy wheels that are standard on the Grand Touring trim level. If you want smaller ones, I believe there are 16-inch wheels on the Sport and Touring trim levels that you can pick from as well. But what I love about these specifically is not just the fact that they contrast very nicely with the pearl white exterior on my tester here, but also these are the largest wheels on a compact that I've tested that don't generate a lot of road noise on the interior. They're actually very, very quiet, and surprisingly, even as sporty as the Mazda 3 is meant to be, it's meant to be a fun to drive car and one you can actually drive spiritedly. The ride actually isn't too rough either. These are 215/45 series 18-inch rubber, and again, the big compliment that I have is that they don't generate a lot of of road noise. I can't tell you how much of a relief that actually is. On top of that, you do also have other modern conveniences such as 4-wheel disc brakes to bring this car to a stop in a hurry. Now, looking at the 2018 Mazda 3 from the side, it's pretty much like all the other third-gen 3s to come before this one, with a couple of exceptions here with my tester. For starters, as I said, the appearance package blacks out certain pieces of the vehicle, and that does include these metallic black painted door mirror caps and, as I said, the side sill extensions that go along the lower rocker panels. But other than that, a lot of it that you see is going to be like the standard Grand Touring equipment from before. We do have the power tilting and sliding sunroof that is standard here on the Grand Touring trim level as well. That's a feature that I've definitely made some use of. There's no panoramic sunroof option, but that's not really a worry for me. And also standard on the Grand Touring trim level, we have Mazda's advanced keyless access system here. Just a push of the button will lock the vehicle, and also push the button once on the driver's door will unlock the driver's door first, then push it again and it will unlock all 4 of the doors. Or you can come over here to the passenger side, hit the door button once, and that will unlock all 4 of the doors at the same time. Now, as we continue on moving towards the back here, one of the things I wanted to point out that I also really love about the third Gen 3 is the fact that its proportions are actually rather pleasing to my eye. I love the fact it's got a nice long hood here, a rather decently sized greenhouse in the middle, and what looks like a rather short and stubby rear end. However, that is a little bit of a deceiver because while it looks like you have very little trunk space back here, seeing how the trunk itself does look rather small, look through the back windshield and you will see that the seats are actually moved up a good bit, thus letting you know you have a lot more room back there than initially meets the eye. Now, as you look at the back of the 3, again, it's just like all of the other 3s that have been in this generation before. My Grand Touring tester here has full LED taillights that includes the LED automatic accents and LED turn signals. You also have things such as the Skyactiv badge, again, that lets you know the type of technology that's up under the hood. And one other little thing that really pleases my eye here is this little rear lip spoiler. I don't know if that's standard or not, or if that's just something that Mazda put on this particular vehicle. I've seen it on a few, and it never ceases to actually be pleasing to my palate. I actually like the little lip spoiler here on the trunk. Now, I also do have a backup camera here on my tester with the guidance lines and trajectories you'll see later. And then also one other thing I wanted to point out is that even though it doesn't have parking sensors here on the rear bumper, this car also does have rear cross traffic alert. I believe that's a part of the premium package here, but it's not so obvious, which is actually kind of nice that it cleans up the back end image of the Mazda 3, even as loaded a tester as I have here. And then of course, finishing off the $1,300 appearance package, we do have the gloss black, or the metallic black painted here piece finishing off the lower bumper. Now, this car does have dual exhaust underneath, and even though you can't see it, such as on its bigger brother, the Mazda 6, with the same engine as my tester here, it does still make a pretty healthy noise when you step on it. Now, as we finish things up here on the exterior, one of the things that's been going around in my head is why exactly did I fall in love with the Mazda 3 a few years ago when it first debuted? And after driving around in this thing for a week, I have to say I think I finally got it. It is the right combination of eye-catching design combined with spirited and fun driving and, dare I say it, youthful performance. Not to mention the fact it is a rather affordable car, even with all of the options like my test vehicle here. Now, the only critique I would say, and this is just the youthful kid speaking in me, I would love to see some kind of Mazda speed version of this. I know so many of the enthusiasts out there have been saying things like this, and my idea would simply to be replace the naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder like my tester here with the turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-banger out of the Mazda CX-9. You know, the one that makes like 310 foot-pounds of torque and like 260 or 70 some odd horsepower. That, I think, would be an absolute riot to drive, compared with a nice manual transmission, of course. But enough about what I think the Mazda 3 should be. Let's focus on what it is, and our next stop is in the interior. Now, if there's one thing I can genuinely say Mazda has gotten right on the money as far as this 3rd Gen 3 is concerned, it is the design of its interior. I mean, just over this past week, both my girlfriend and I have been saying that this interior belongs in a car that's at least 1.5, if not 2 times as expensive as the $28,500 price tag of our test vehicle here. Now again, my tester being the Grand Touring with a few options added in, there is going to be a lot of stuff thrown all over this interior. But starting off with these seats that are beautifully stitched together, by the way, we have a 2-tone parchment and black leather upholstery. These are perforated here in the middle, but unfortunately they are heated only. There is no cooled seat option here, even on a very well-equipped 3 like this. Now the driver's seat here for my particular tester is 6-way power adjustable, no power lumbar, which is another little disappointment here, but you do have power recline, the power height adjustment, and power distance control as well. But looking at the rest of the interior, it feels like it belongs in a upper-end Mazda 6 or perhaps one of their high-end SUVs. Everything from this newly designed steering wheel all the way to the aesthetics over here on the door feels much, much better than the Mazda 3s of before. Starting off on the top of the door, we do have a sort of softly padded leather-like material up here on the top. You do have this nice aluminum or painted aluminum texture up here on the top with a nice little silver door handle here to complement it. A little bit of gloss black here surrounding your switchgear, but also a nice bit of parchment padded leather here on my tester. It's almost a white leather. It doesn't even look off-white like some people have been saying. It really almost looks like a ceramic color rather than a parchment color, as Mazda calls it. But still, it's rather soft. You got nice stitching here on the armrest and also here along the middle of the door. As far as your typical switchgear, it's all typical Mazda 3. You have power mirrors, window locks, power door locks with the keyless access, as I showed you earlier. You only have an automatic one-touch driver's window. Maybe both the front windows automatic would have been nice, or maybe even all 4. That would have been cool. But so far, only an automatic driver's window with the rest of your power windows is standard equipment. Now, first sitting down in the driver's seat of the 2018 Mazda 3, it still feels like a very, very nice place to spend your time, especially when you consider the category of vehicle that we're competing in here, and especially when you consider that, again, we have the most loaded version of the 3 here today. But first off, entry and exit, it is a little bit of a lower car, especially with things like the low profile tires and bigger wheels and things like that. So you do have to step down and in, especially for a taller person like myself. But once you sit down, the seats just hug you in all the right places. The bolstering is perfect, especially for your thigh support and especially for your torso support as well. It is right on the money for what I would expect from a sportier compact car like this. As far as visibility is concerned, looking out the windshield, got no problems there. Same thing out the side windows, although the rear window is a little bit on the slim side, so that may hamper visibility possibly, but I wouldn't say too much. But my real gripe is actually out the back. The windshield itself isn't too bad, but the parcel shelf up there, which contains 2 speakers for this car's Bose audio system that I'll demonstrate later, it does stick up rather high, so I can't actually see the trunk of the vehicle, so I actually have to use the mirrors for that nonetheless. But neither here nor there, it is a hot one here in Houston today again, so we need some air conditioning. So we've got Mazda's older design key fob. This has been around, I think, since the late part of the 2000s, so it is getting a little old. I would like to see maybe an updated key fob, but again, that's just a little nitpicky side of me. We do have the typical controls: lock, unlock, hold this for the trunk, and also the panic function as well, not to mention a retractable key blade which pops out of the bottom part of the key here should either the car or the key fob lose power. But it's like any other smart key system out there. Just keep the key fob in the vehicle, then put your foot on the brake pedal. You'll notice a little light on the engine start button. When it recognizes the key, it turns green. After it does all that, just simply hit the button and alrighty, so we got the air conditioning going and cooling ourselves off, so let's talk about this interior. And while I was singing praises about it before, unfortunately, no car is perfect. There are a few little things that you could pick holes in around here, and we'll hear about those as we go along. But first off, let's talk about the necessities. So first off, in front of the driver here, you have the newer design 3-spoke multi-function steering wheel. And as you can see in my Grand Touring here, with as many options as it has, there are quite a few buttons to go over. You do have hands-free Bluetooth, hands-free radio controls, the button that controls the right-hand display up here in the gauge cluster, as well as your seek track buttons and voice recognition, if I didn't mention that before. And you also have Mazda's radar-guided cruise control, or dynamic radar cruise control, as they say, and that is a part of the premium package here on my tester, and we'll go through how that works a little bit later. But overall, the wheel itself is a very nice thing to hold on to. You do have subtle grips up here at 10 and 2, and the leather feels a little bit on the synthetic side, but it's not the fakest thing I've ever felt, so I would have expected maybe a little more supple, but that could be the fact that this is also a press car, so I have no idea. Also, on the back of the steering wheel, all automatic equipped models like my tester here do have the paddle shifters, which allow you to make the most of the 184 horsepower up front, but also allow you the most spirited driving experience, to say the least. Now, moving over to the left-hand side of the steering wheel for just a second, you do have another little array of buttons down here, some a little bit further out of reach than others. But up here closest to me, I do have the lane departure warning system. That is a part of the premium package on my tester as well. And also standard traction control and TPMS as well, or tire pressure monitoring system to be specific. And also down here, you do have the hood release, gas cap release, and the trunk release, all in very close proximity to each other. Now, looking up here at the gauges for just a second, one of the things that has really attracted me about this cluster in particular is the way that everything is arranged. For starters, I'm loving this center-mounted tachometer here. I believe that's standard on the Grand Touring. I know that the Sport and the Touring trim levels can move the tachometer over here into this left-hand display where you see the gear selection and odometer at the moment. But other than that, you also have a digital speedometer here, and that also translates to the standard heads-up display up here on my Grand Touring. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but it's actually very nice. It projects it right in your line of sight. It displays everything such as your speed limits, the blind spot monitoring, the dynamic radar cruise control distance, lane departure warning, and all that good stuff. It's all projected on this little piece of plastic up here that majestically rises up out of the dash whenever the vehicle is powered on. But moving over to that little display over here on the right, it's triggered by the info button here, which you actually push to change the information. So you push it, we have current MPG, average vehicle speed, vehicle range, current average miles per gallon. I just refueled it with a few bucks of fuel, which is why it's so low. I've actually averaged about 31.5 miles per gallon in this car so far. But moving on, again, it goes right back to current MPG. So not too much information to go through. You also have a digital outside temperature gauge and digital fuel gauge to go along with it. Now, looking here in the center stack and down to the center console, as you can see, there are quite a lot of buttons to go through. But the main thing that's dominating the center here is the 7-inch display, which is connected to Mazda's Connect system, which I'm pretty familiar with at this point. It's a system that I've dealt with before. And it's pretty much the same system that was first debuted back in 2014. We do have the application system, which gives you things such as an active traffic map. As you can see, it's a pretty bitty place here in the Houston area. Fuel economy monitor, and also the vehicle status monitor as well. My particular tester does have a Bose 9-speaker center point audio system as standard on the Grand Touring trim, and trust me, it does pack a pretty hefty punch. Now, like I've been saying in a lot of my previous reviews, if you are a music head, this is the type of stereo system you're going to want. It packs a hefty amount of bass if you really want it to, but it's a very clean and crisp sound that actually comes from that stereo system. Now, if we go back to the home page here, you also do have things such as the Bluetooth communication, and again, as a part of the premium package, we do have a full navigation system by Mazda here. It looks a little bit old school as far as the graphics are concerned, but it does perform very admirably. It's very smooth, and it does absolutely everything that you want. But going back to the home page again, you also do have the vehicle settings, or rather the settings for certain things such as your display, the active safety features and things such as blind spot monitoring and lane keep assist, and also things such as just your sound functions and whatnot as well. So overall, it's a very easy system to use, and again, you can familiarize yourself with it rather quickly, even if you're not a bit of a tech whiz like I am. Now, moving down here to beneath the Mazda Connect system, we do have a couple of different functions, including the 3-stage heated front seats. But as I said, there's no option for cooled seats. That's one little gripe that I still wanted to make note of. I tested a 2016, the all-new Mazda CX-9 Signature last year, and it too did not have cooled seats in the highest end trim. So that's something I'm kind of sad to see Mazda skimping on. I would have expected it to kind of keep up with the competition. But also my Grand Touring here, as part of the options list, does have a heated steering wheel as well, which is kind of nice. The heaters do work. They are actually quite nice, and they're up here in the grip bolsters if you were curious. But below that, we do have an automatic dual zone climate control system. You do have your fan speeds down here to the lower left, temperature controls on either side. You have the dual button, which allows you to control the temperatures by themselves or independently, or you can sync them up to work work together when you twist the knob here for the driver's side. You also have recycling air conditioning, pulling in the air from outside as well, turning it off, introducing AC, climate zones over here for both sides, just going up and down, and then also front and rear defrost as well, not to mention the automatic function when you push the temperature knob on the left-hand side. Now moving down here along the lower center console, looking into the little cubby here just in front of the shifter, we do have an auxiliary input, the SD card slot for the navigation, and 2 usable USB ports. I don't know if those are data only or if they can actually charge your phone, but either way, you do have 2 of them down there just in case you need more than one device plugged in. The little cubby here is pretty spacious. As you can see, my Galaxy S5 does fit rather nicely, but as you push it forward, it does get a little cramped, but nevertheless, nothing will really slide around in there should you decide to do some rather spirited driving. But as far as the transmission is concerned, like I said, my tester is the automatic here. However, you can opt for 2 different transmissions depending on which trim level you go with. You can actually opt for the short throw 6-speed manual transmission or my tester's Skyactiv-G 6-speed automatic transmission with the manual shifting capabilities. Now, I was wrong earlier. The paddle shifters are actually a part of the premium package on this. I actually didn't read the window sticker carefully. When you do the manual shift mode, you can take control on the paddles as well, but that's only if you get the premium package. Otherwise, you'll have to use the gear stick itself. The automatic version does give you a sport mode as well. You just flick the trigger up and the icon appears up there on the dash. It's not like any other drive mode select where there's like 9 different modes to have to go through. But also you do have a rear backup camera, which displays up here on the screen, which does not have trajectory. So when you turn the steering wheel, the guidance lines do not twist or turn in any direction. They just stay exactly where they're at, which is, again, a little disappointing. I would have maybe expected trajectory to be in there, but in this one, I don't see that actually happening. And then, of course, you do have the automatic safety locks, which will lock once the vehicle is in motion and it's in any other gear other than park. Now, moving on from the gear selector for a second, we have the control station, which goes in sync with the Mazda Connect system and all functions up here on the screen. The main wheel here, that's going to be your up-down functions, going up and down, scrolling left and right and whatnot. You have a back button, music functions, the home page, which we're on now, and then a button to take you straight to the navigation function as well, not to mention things such as your favorite radio stations. The volume knob is just to the right, so that's pretty easy to figure out. And also, my tester does have an electronic parking brake, so just pull up to set, and then to turn it off, just put your foot on the brake and push forward, and that will release it. Now, as we move along the center console here, one of the things that I'm really noticing is just the level of detail. I noticed it with the seats and whatnot, but you have these padded leather surfaces here as you go towards the back of the center console, which I really, really like. It's not something too noticeable, but again, it's nice that it's there nonetheless. You do have 2 decently sized cup holders. As you can see, they will hold your big gulp from 7-Eleven if you so desire, and they do have a little cover. Not to mention, we have a smaller little center console back here with I believe it's another USB charger. Nope, I was wrong. That got moved up there underneath the dash. But you do have a 12-volt, 120-watt outlet there, just in case you need it as well. Now, looking up here at the roof line for just a second, my tester does have a standard auto-dimming rearview mirror equipped with a HomeLink garage door system and also the power functions for the auto-dimming function. But continuing on, we do also have a small sunglasses holder, your typical things such as your halogen map lights with the door functions and whatnot. But also, as I said, my tester does have a power tilting and sliding sunroof. Now, the automatic function is one touch going back, but unfortunately, it's not automatic one touch when you go close it. You actually have to hold it down as the sunroof closes. Now, if you want to tilt it, you just simply push up on the trigger, and as you can see, that will tilt the sunroof up. Now, even though the front seat of the Mazda 3 may be nice and open for taller folks, unfortunately, even taller people like myself at 6'1" may have a little difficulty when they get into the back. Again, I have the driver's seat exactly where I want it, and unfortunately, as you can see, my knees are directly in the driver's back if I want to sit comfortably, so not exactly a good mark for taller folks here in the back of the Mazda 3. You do have one leather-bound map pocket over here on the passenger side, nothing here for your driver, unfortunately, or the left-hand occupant again, but here in the rear seats you do also have a nice little padded center armrest here with a couple of cup holders for your drinks, and also these rear seats are 60-40 split fold, which the triggers are actually located in the trunk. Now, when it comes to storing stuff in the trunk, again, the Mazda 3 can deceive one a little bit when it comes to the first outward appearance. Again, the trunk looking a little bit on the short side, but if you actually open that trunk, you'll find you have a lot more room than you initially thought. You open up the trunk here and you're looking at 12.4 cubic feet of cargo space, and that's before, again, you fold down those 60-40 split fold seats. Now, like I said, the triggers for those are right here up in the top, but unfortunately, I have a complaint back here again that the hinges are actually not hidden. They are protected by these rather large pieces of plastic, but unfortunately, you're not going to want to store anything over here on the sides if you do not want the risk of it being crushed. But overall, it still is quite commodious if you really think about it. But if you lift up the carpets here in the back, you do actually have a pretty medium-sized spare tire there in the back. It's still a donut, so you're going to have to travel at temporary speed when wearing it, but it's still nice that Mazda gives you that rather than a fix-a-flat. Now, while the 2018 Mazda 3 may not be the fastest or most powerful vehicle in its segment, it certainly has one of the most advanced engines of its time. Under the hood of my particular tester here, we find the bigger 2.5-liter Skyactiv technology double overhead cam 16-valve 4-cylinder engine that also features things such as direct fuel injection, variable valve timing, a higher compression ratio, and a unique 4-2-1 style exhaust system. Now, like before, it makes the same 184 horsepower and 185 pound-feet of torque. Now, should you find yourself going for one of the lower trim levels, this will then be downgraded to a 2-liter Skyactiv 4-cylinder engine. Now, that engine makes 155 horsepower and 150 pound-feet of torque. Now, in the Grand Touring trim that I have here, the EPA rates this thing at 27 miles per gallon in the city and 36 miles per gallon on the interstate highway. Over the course of my week of testing, I've returned about 31.5 miles per gallon in mostly sitting but slightly mixed driving conditions. So overall, it's still a wonderful engine to drive, and again, when you step on it, it can be as spirited as any youthful car should be. Now, being that the demographic for the Mazda 3 is a little bit more on the youthful side of the spectrum these days, safety is more than a concern on Mazda's minds. And it definitely shows with awards such as a Top Safety Pick Plus for the Mazda 3 for 2017. And looking at the active safety features list here on my test vehicle, both standard and optional features, you can definitely see why it earns such a rating. My particular tester not only has the standard array of airbags, including the dual front impact, side impact, and side curtain airbags, but also things such as the dynamic radar cruise control, which I showed you earlier, also things such as blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, automatic emergency braking across the lineup. That is now standard for 2018, as I found out from Mazda, but also things such as the lane keep assist and lane departure alert. So it is fair to say that this car is one of the safer compacts that you're going to find in the category. Now, as far as passenger comfort and looking here in the glove box itself is damped. It does fall rather nicely, and as you can see, we got our sticker and all of our books in there. It does have quite a lot of space in it, so you can store things such as maps, napkins, and all your other little gewgaws in there. But again, size is actually very nice. But also passenger comfort, it's just as good as the driver's seat. You do have very nice bolsters here, again for the torso and also for the thighs. So overall, it's not only a very comfortable car, but still a very safe and practical one, all wrapped up in one. And for that, my respect and love for the Mazda 3 still continues here for 2018. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the 2018 Mazda 3 Grand Touring has now unfortunately come to a close. I do hope everybody's enjoyed this review as much as I've had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do give this video a thumbs up, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But in the end, a huge thanks goes out to the folks at Mazda USA for allowing me to drive this fun-filled Mazda 3 for an entire week. Now, in the end, guys, this has been Grand Prix GTP02 coming to you once again from the north end of Houston, Texas, signing out until next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.